So welcome to this session of Linux AD integration using FreeIPA. So I think I know already many of you from ITGilde. So a few words about myself. So I'm coming from France. I live in the Netherlands since year 2000 actually. And I've been working at many different companies as a contractor, like ABN AMRO, RBS, and Howald, HP. But I joined recently Liberty Global, which is a telecom company providing internet to you guys probably via Ziggo and Virgin Media, and so they have all the backend stuff. So I'm working for this company now, and yeah, I'm at ITGilde for probably 8 years now, something like this, 6-8 years, and yeah, it's really good to meet all the IT Linux specialists or freelancer, and yeah, it's always been nice to share knowledge and trainings, and so it's I must say it's quite fun. And so I yeah, I'm obviously into Linux. ITGilde is all about Linux, and 2 years ago I did the Red Hat Certified Architect project, and then I did the Unit 5 module. So you need to have a Red Hat like system admin, then engineer. Let me admit someone. So I did also the OpenShift, Ansible automation, and one of my module was a Red Hat IDM. So it was 2 years ago, I guess. And I really like this Red Hat IDM, and I used it at work as well, create an environment with Active Directory. I noticed that, well, when I started with this, I didn't know anything about Windows because I was a Linux guy, and so I really had difficulty to get started. So that's why I'm going to start this this presentation with giving a bit of a presentation of Active Directory, actually. So we will have a look, yeah, on a high level at Active Directory. What is it? Because, yeah, I know, as I was saying, I know for myself, I didn't know anything about it. I was only focusing on Linux. So I can give you, let's say, some base for to integrate it with Linux FreeIPA. So we'll have a look, yeah, just simply DNS user group. What we'll have a look, what's interesting, it's the trust between AD. What is a trust, and what can you do with it, and what it gives to you. Then we'll have a look at FreeIPA quickly. Well, quickly, we'll try to spend some time on installing it, and also we'll have a look at the content, and then we are going to find out that it's really similar, actually, to very similar to AD. Let me see. I think I have to admit someone. Yeah, so then we'll have a look at a different integration. How can you authenticate with AD? So you can actually more or less out of the box nowadays, you can, well, even it's not new, I mean, it's 10 years old probably, but you can already authenticate with AD, but you can have a direct integration. So I will have a quick demo, but we not going to focus on this. So we are going to have a look at the indirect integration with some trusts between 2 domains. So that's a bit what we are going to see. I think regarding timing, it's going to be optimistic 2 hours. So try to go. Yeah, well, let's see how far we go, and if there are a lot of questions, or if there are, because it's a huge product, IPA, so maybe you can organize a next session with some more stuff. Why not? Yeah, so quickly about Linux authentication. Someone is joining. Good evening, someone's joined. Yeah, just a few words about Linux authentication. So what can we do? How can we authenticate users to Linux? So we can just use local accounts. I mean, it's still a very valid option. We can use LDAP, LDAP for Linux servers. We can join the Linux server directly to Active Directory via SSSD or Samba WinBind. And we, yeah, we'll just focus on the SSD. Samba WinBind is working fine and actually has some advantages if you want to join two Active Directory domain. That's the way to go. But then we'll have a look yeah, the FreeIPN, we will create trust with AD, so that's another option. There are a few third-party options. If you have some money, you can go for CyberArk or One Identity, these kind of products. And someone is joining, rejoining, sorry. Yeah, so we'll have a look at this. For all the options, what we are going to have a look, actually, it's the access control. I think it's very important if you are not only doing a demo environment, but if you are doing like enterprise environment, you must make sure you have proper access control in place. And we'll have a look at privilege escalation as well with sudo. And yeah, there are a few options for AD. For example, you can even do it with GPOs, like this group policy on AD. But we'll have a look at the FreeIPA host-based access control and sudo rules. Okay, so you have the idea also it's to compare, because it's nice to join Linux to AD, but in a big company you have a Linux team and then you have a Windows team, and these two teams, yeah, sometimes they are not really cooperating together. They are really separate teams. So let's say you have a request to join new Linux servers to AD, then the Linux team will have to do something and the Windows team probably or not. So what we have a look is to limit the involvement of the Windows team, so that actually it's much more efficient because you will need to create some groups of users. So group of users can access certain hosts and others not, and you have to arrange also sudo. So we'll have a look what's the best way to achieve this. If you have questions, yeah, don't hesitate to interrupt. We'll have a demo environment. So as a kind of scenario, let's say we have two companies. One company is called Blue, and the other one is called Green. So the company Blue has one domain, AD domain. So we will have one domain controller and one client. And then, like it happens a lot in companies, we see this a lot, that a company acquires another company, and the other company has already an Active Directory domain, complete domain, Forest, it's called. And so most of the time, what you see when companies are doing this is that they create kind of trust between these two Active Directory domains. So that's what we're going to have a look and implement. And so these two companies have users. So we will have a Linux admin group, and we will have, so by these Linux admin, they need to access all the servers, right? And we will have a team in charge of application A. So this team will be given a few servers, and they have to access, well, it's not that they have to access, but they they should be allowed to access their own servers and not the others. And the same for application B. So it will look like this. So what we are going to create, it's a domain controller for the blue domain controller for a green domain, and IPA server. And we will have all these users configured in the blue domain, all these users configured in the green domain, and the same as well for on the IPA servers. And we will start with joining a Windows server to AD, and so that's the most simple. Yeah, just to demonstrate AD. And then we will install the IPA server and join servers. And yeah, create the trusts. In this demo environment, so I'm the demo environment. Let me show you. I'm running this on on a Proxmox. So I have like a computer with Proxmox. It's an hypervisor, open source hypervisor, and then I can create virtual machines from there. So we will use CentOS Stream 9. Yeah, it's just new, so why not? Let's give it a try. And so yeah, it's the Rail 9 is in a beta, and the CentOS Stream is now the up. So CentOS became the upstream project from Red Hat, not anymore what CentOS used to be. But it's interesting, but it's very dynamic. So I installed, created a template, but I see that I already have many updates available, but that does not matter too much actually. So this is the demo environment. Well, let's get started. So I have created already the domain controller 1 and domain controller 2. So we'll have a look a bit at Active Directory. Yeah, DNS, I will come back on this later. So what is our Active Directory? Yeah, it's a kind of, yeah, it contains an LDAP database. It contains a Kerberos component. It has a DNS. It has also like a certificate authority. In companies, yes, you see it in all the companies. They give laptops to people, and the laptop are joining the Active Directory domain. What's there? There's a concept of forest, domain, and site. So this is an Active Directory concept. Let me show you a picture. So basically, forests, usually you start with a forest and you have trees. So let's in this example, it's from the Microsoft website, this. So we have a forest for a company, Tailspin Toys, and they have a domain, tailspintoys.com. So that's their main domain. And this is at the root of the forest. And then in your forest, you can create a child domain. So here you can see you have Europe, tailspin.toys. So this is a child domain, they call it. And to manage all this, you have a domain controller. So here you have domain controller number 1, a child domain controller number 1. And so these are kind of isolated to each other. But let's imagine you have a printer or a file server, then a user is within the forest. You are allowed to access, let's say, all the resources. But if you are not on the same, forest, so here it's probably also the same kind of setup where a company has been acquired or whatever. So they have a complete different forest. So there's complete isolation between these forests. And if you want to actually to, so in this example, for example, we have a file server, a share. So if a user from the forest on the left want to access this share here, you need to have what is called a trust. So a trust is a way to allow access to resources from a different, from another domain. So that's really quickly how it's these concepts. So yeah, for example, here as well. So if you are in you have this trust between forests. So let's say a user in forest 2 can access resources in both forest 1 and forest 3. And the users in forest 3 can only access in forest 2, but users in forest 1 cannot access forest 3. So here there's no trust. Well, there's also the concept of transitivity. The trust is transitive or not, but basically, yeah, that's how it works. Let's see. So I started this two-domain controller. So I just took Windows 99, Windows 2019 OS, and then I installed just AD to save a bit of time. So we can log in to this AD. We'll also open a session on AD Green.
Boy, bye, Lenarek. Guy, in Africa, learning it more tech pressure. Listen, bye, Lenarek, bye, directement, Cambile, directement, à report, militaire, à report, militaire.
Hey, hello.
Mama, the mom walking about. I'm not, have a key one mom. You buy Europe like continue.
Sorry, can you go on mute? Alpha, hello? Okay. Can you go on mute, please? I cannot, yeah, thanks. Sorry. Okay, so we have, so these are our two, so yeah, just to have a look at Active Directory. Let me get rid of this. So this is a Windows 19. We have installed the AD/DS feature, so Active Directory basically. And to have Active Directory, you need also a DNS. It's not mandatory, but without it, it's quite complicated to manage. So out of the box, if you install this feature, you get an Active Directory domain. So and then, so I installed it with domain blue.corp. So this is what we have. There's nothing, no computers join. So in Active Directory, actually, you can join computers to Active Directory. So when you join a computer, it will appear here. And when you create users, they will appear here. So let's see. Yeah, so let's, yeah, so I'm assuming that nobody knows too much about AD. So I remember myself, I didn't know anything. I've never saw a console like this. So you can create some users like this user, for example. Sorry, I lost my mouse. Oh, it's back. So I'm creating a user. Here we go. So you have a user B Gates who can who's now a part of this Active Directory domain. So all the if you join a computer to Active Directory, then you will be able to log in to this computer. So this is this situation. So this simplest setup. Let's see. Let's join a computer to this domain. So I have Windows server here. I'm going to start it, and we will join it to the domain. So I'm using this hypervisor. It's open source, and yeah, I must say it's really good compared to I don't know, for some other stuff. It's not VMware, but it's all free. It can do live migration. It can do really a lot of stuff, and I find it really good. Okay, so we started this now. I think I have a typo. Cannot type anymore, administrator. Okay, so this is like an out-of-the-box Windows server. So when you install Windows server, you just stand alone. What we are going to do here is to join it to the domain. So what's important in all this kind of setup, being AD or FreeIPA, is the DNS. DNS plays really an essential role there. So let me explain you DNS here in this context. So if you are going to join a computer to to this domain, you need to have DNS properly configured, and everything needs to be resolvable. So in this case, this Active Directory domain controller serves as a DNS server. So what we need to make sure is that it's pointing there so that it can resolve all the records, all the different names. So that's what I'm going to do here. With my window. Yeah, so let's have a look at so this is my Windows 1. So a quick look at the DNS. So I'm pointing to this DNS server, which is the IP address of AD Blue, so that's okay. So I'm just going to join it to the domain. To rename this computer or change the domain, click change. So I will say domain blue.corp, that's the domain. So I need to provide the administrator credentials. Welcome to the blue.corp domain. So apparently you must restart your computer. Okay. Okay, so it's as simple as this to join a computer to a domain. So what happens when you do this? So when you join the computer, you have access to the resources on this domain controller. So all the users that are configured there, you can log in then to this computer using the users defined there. Well, it goes really, you can do a lot of stuff in big company. Of course, you are using some kind of policy. It's called GPOs, and you can restrict a lot of resources that a user can use. But here, just to give what we need to later on work with IPA. Okay, let's see. Oh, it didn't restart. So this one is restarting, and so if we have a look at what happens, so this is the AD. We should see, so now we see this computer, Windows 01. So it has joined the domain. Member of blue.corp. Okay, so I created one user, but let's create more users. So Windows 19 now you can have an SSH server. So that's what I tried actually. Admin. So I'm logged into this Active Directory. I found this out a few days ago that you can now SSH to Windows. So I thought I would I would share this. And exit. What I want to do here, it's actually to create some users. So I'm going to SCP script. So it's quite nice. You can just use it as you do on Linux. So I transferred the script. Now I'm going to log in again. Here we go. My script is there. And I'm going to create some users. I think, so in Active Directory, if you want to separate a bit your user from the rest, you create kind of a folder. It's called an organization unit. So this allows you to, if you have different departments, for example, it allows you to, just organize your stuff. So let's call it demo. So I'm just creating kind of placeholder for this. And maybe I can run my script again. And now I created all my users. So I created these demo users that we had here. So like I called them blue user 1, 2, 3 till 9, and created a group Linux admin, application support, application B. So now if we go to demo, we refresh with F5, so we have the users. Okay. So let's see if Windows server is back. It's automatically login. Well, let's log in via the console. So let's try now to use an Active Directory user. So let's see, how do I sign into another domain? So here I can log in using the domain name. So that would be, it's called blue. And then I add a user called blue user1. And here we go. So I can log in using the Active Directory user to this Windows server. So that's, yeah, very, very quick demo of let's say Active Directory, what we can do. There's something important I want to show as well. It's the DNS. So these are Active Directory users and computer. Here you have many different tools. One is DNS. So out of the box, when you install Active Directory, you get DNS. And my initial domain is blue.corp. And what you get out of the box, it's blue.corp domain. So this means this Active Directory is authoritative for the blue.corp domain. And you will see the different DNS records. So what happened when I joined my Windows server to AD, I also got a record here, Windows 01. And you can see that it's, yeah, it has created a record, yeah. You see all kind of different records as well. And these are interesting records. They are server records, and they are heavily used in AD, but also in FreeIPA actually. So these records are quite important. It didn't create the river zone. Yeah, river zone are not so used. We can try to create it actually in in a FreeIPA. We can take care of the river zone here. Okay, so that's yeah, quickly about the first parts. Let's see what was planning to do there. If you have any question, just tell. Well, not too complex question because AD is not really my, my specialty, but yeah. So let's see. We will create the second domain controller. So this is the first, the simplest setup. And now what we are going to do is to create this cross forest between domain green and domain blue. So you have a company acquired another one. They have completely different AD environment, but you can access them. So with this, what we can do is to set up this trust. I will start. Green is already started. What we will do is to just create the trust actually. So I have this AD from the green. It has also DNS, it has AD installed. So let's try to create a trust between these two. So again, at DNS level, what's important is that you are able to resolve each other. So these two must be able to resolve each other. And how do you do this? You need to have a forwarder in place. So let's have a look. So here, for example, so this is just a Linux box that I have. If I query the DNS from blue, so this is the IP address of a blue AD, so it's a DNS server. So if I query, well, just domain actually, so I get an answer. If I query green, I don't get any answer. You see, it's not. So it means the DNS blue doesn't know anything about green yet. So we have to configure this. So the first thing to do, it's to go to the DNS from blue, and we are going to add a conditional forwarder. So what we are going to tell, it's if you want to query the domain green.corp, then you need to access this DNS server. I think I called it 20. Yeah. So my naming kind of convention, I have 10 for blue and 20. Okay, so he found out that it's DC2. Here we go. So I have a conditional forwarder. So every DNS query that arrives at this domain controller for green.corp will be forwarded to green.corp. So we have to do the other way around. So on this side, what I have to do is to also create a forwarder. And I want to reach here blue.corp. And I'm going to query this DNS server. So it's the other way around from green. If I get query from blue, then this is where I have to do. Okay, so this is a range. Let's verify. So if I now query, so this is the IP address of blue, and I'm querying green, and now I get answer. And the other way around, if I use DNS server from blue, from green, I'm querying green, so that's working fine, obviously, but blue as well. So this is in a place now. So we have this range. Let's now create the trust. So these two can see each other. So we can create a trust. So this is like everything on Windows. You have a nice GUI. So I have menu domain and trust. So I will go to domain and trust. I will, so there's not so much in there. I see my domain blue.corp. If I go to properties, I see trust here. I have nothing. I will say new trust. So name. So I want to have a trust with green.corp. So that's why it's important to have DNS in place, because green.corp, I mean, it's yeah, it must be known, and it's actually going to use these server records. Just can quickly show what a server record is. So let's say I'm querying, I'm using the blue DNS, and I'm going to query blue.corp, and I'm going to query server records. I'm going to query, for example, underscore TCP underscore LDAP, for example, dot underscore. So these are the server records. So when Active Directory wants to know where is the LDAP server for the domain blue.corp, it's actually sending a query, is looking for the server records, and you get an answer. So, okay, if you are looking for a LDAP server for this domain, so in Active Directory, you can have like 10, 20, 100 of domain controller, but it's telling you this is the domain controller, the LDAP server. It's running on this port 389, and it has a priority 0 out of 100, and it means use this one. But if you're on a different site, it can, by running this query, it can, the idea is to connect to the closest domain controller, actually. And you will see that in FreeIPA, the same concept is used as well. So in FreeIPA, you have also these server records that are very nice because you can have, let's say you have 10 different sites with different IPA servers. The clients will just query the server records and will find the closest domain controller to connect to. Okay, let's create the trust. Green. So I want to create a forests trust. So you have two-way, one-way. So like you can say, I trust you, but you don't trust me. So in this case, we are just going to have two-way trusts. It means that all the users from green can connect to blue, and all the users from blue can connect to green. Now I need to give administrator password on the other side. And I'm going to make it forest-wide authentication. Next. Yeah, like who's in Windows. Next. Next, you should confirm this trust. You want to confirm. So it means that the trusts should have been created already. If I need to confirm. So if I go to green, to the domain and trusts, properties, trusts, yeah, so it has been created on the other side because I gave admin credentials, so we can see it here. So let's say yes, confirm the trust here. Do you want to confirm? Yes, finish. So now we have configured trusts. It means that if we have this green user, so this Windows server is joined to this blue domain. So normally this green user, it's part of his domain, shouldn't have access to this, but with a trust, he will be able to log in. Let's give it a try. First, I need to, I think I didn't create the users. So we are now in this tool, Active Directory users and computers. Yeah, we'll create also this organizational units demo. Here we go. So I will also use this small script. I have a small script. So there's a PowerShell command to create a user. So you do add AD group member, and it creates the user. Yeah, this is the new AD user. So this is the command to create a user. So here it's a loop. Well, I found this on Google. I'm not really a PowerShell specialist, but apparently you can do quite a lot. Green, I'm going to send it to green.corp. Oops. And I'm going to also configure SSH. Yeah, I find it really cool that they put SSH on Windows now. Here we go. So I should see cat is even working. Okay. Let's create these users. Here we go. Green, so under demo, can do refresh. Okay, I have my test user. So what we can do is try to log in using one of the users. So for example, I have this one, green user 4. So if I go to my console, here we go. I am already logged in. Let's do a switch user. Switch user. Over user. So so this computer is joined to the blue domain, but I will try to log in using green user whatever. Green user 6. Here we go. So using the trusts, I was able to log in to the server using a user from the other domain. Yeah, I'm not going. I was planning to join another server here, but yeah, we'll skip this one. Okay, that's a bit yeah, in short, kind of Active Directory introduction. Sorry to present Windows in Linux. But do you have any question? If not, then we can yeah, start with second part. So let's have a look at FreeIPA. So FreeIPA, it's actually the Active Directory for Linux. So you can have the same manage identities and authentication and authorization. Yeah, authentication, authorization. Yeah, this is what it's all about. Huh? So you are authenticating, login as your username, and then authorization. It's about having access or not to certain resources. So we have the same component in FreeIPA. We have an LDAP server. It's all open source LDAP server. Someone is asking, Gabor, you're asking if you need a Windows. Yeah, I don't have licenses, I guess here. This is, but you can download, of course, evaluation. I just downloaded this from the Windows sites, and then you can use it for 190 days, and I think you can renew even the license 3 times or something like this. But yeah, to get a proper license, yeah, you can reinstall. I think you can renew the license 3 times. I guess you can probably run it a year or something in total, which is not bad. Yeah, I mean for demo, but yeah, of course for production use you need quite a real license. Yeah, correct. You can rearm. Yeah. Oh yeah, total 270 days. Yeah. Yeah, not production indeed. But it's true that nowadays, yeah, you can just install Windows, also Windows 10, and yeah, it's for demo, it's really good. So let's I see the time. Let's go IPA. So yeah, in short, it's like the Active Directory for Linux. It has LDAP, it has Kerberos, DNS, CA. Yeah, certificate authority is also a big part in both Active Directory and FreeIPA. Kerberos, yeah, Kerberos. about getting Kerberos tickets. You see, you have it on Windows. I query the Kerberos center, and I get kind of a ticket. Ticket is a pass. It gives you access to many resources. It's a basic for a single sign-on. But let's get started. So we are going to install FreeIPA. We're going to install one client or two actually, and yeah, we'll have a look at this. And later on, we're gonna start to configure everything. So let's get started. Okay, so I have to start from scratch. So I start from CentOS template, which I'm going to clone. Let's give it number. It will be 505. I will call it FreeIPA 1.FreeIPA1, whatever. Linked clone. It will be quicker. Clone. So for this design, what we are going to do, it's to put it in the blue.corp domain because it's an Active Directory. It's kind of Active Directory forest on its own, so it needs its own DNS domain. So this is very important. There are some lot of not limitations, but it has to be a separate domain. It can be a subdomain, a child domain. So if we have a look at the DNS here, so we have blue.corp. So this is like the domain, the realm, like Kerberos domain, but the DNS domain as well. And here, what we are going to do is to have a zone delegation. You see it in a company. So let's imagine that company Blue was managing Windows hosts with Active Directory and was managing Linux hosts with FreeIPA, IDM. And they wanted to use the same domain. You could use just ipa.corp or something, but they wanted to stay in the same blue.corp domain. So what we are going to do, it's a zone delegation. So we are going to delegate the IPA domain to FreeIPA. So all the records that we are going to create, like Linux1 IPA blue.corp, will be created in IPA, not in Active Directory. So this we have to take care if we want to use this setup. If we choose another domain, we don't need to do this. It's just that in this case, we need zone delegation. So here you see these forwarders. This is already what we configured. And you have a global forwarder. So on my lab, I have a router, which is DNS. Actually, it goes to the internet DNS. And so the Active Directory is also able to resolve google.com, whatever public domain. And the same here. So we are able to resolve. So there's a kind of global forwarder, you can call it. So for IPA, there are a few ways to do it. Normally, you don't really expose your IPA server to internet DNS. So a nice way to do it is to just create a forwarder for blue.corp, for green.corp, and maybe to have a global forwarder going to the router. If we want to keep it simple, we can just forward everything to blue.corp because blue.corp is able to resolve not only green.corp, but all the public names. So we can just point it there. It's gonna work as well. But the zone delegation, yeah, we have to take care of this. Okay, so here we go. So I have a new IPA server. Well, you can run it with 2 cores, but you have a bit of resources available. So let's put it a bit more memory. Okay, network. Fine, let's get started. Yeah, Gabor, running Samba as a domain controller. Yeah, indeed, it's Samba is the domain controller for Linux, but I never tried it to join Windows Server to Samba, I must say.
Supposedly it should work. And years ago, I had a session with someone from who used to work in the Samba team, and I mean like almost 10 years ago. Not exactly 10 years, or slightly less. But anyway, at that time, actually, Microsoft supposedly certified Samba as a domain controller.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. But somehow it's not something that's being used in companies.
Not that I know, but still interesting. So
yeah, it will be interesting to try.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this license is an issue.
Yeah, true. Yeah, for production. Yeah.
Not for production, just testing.
Yeah, if it's something we could try. And yeah, I guess it's quickly installable. But in joining when you join a Linux server to AD directly as well, you are also using the Samba components. But yeah, it's not something I tried. Curious, yeah, if it's working.
Yeah, me too. But
okay, so let's so installing IPA. Yeah, okay, let's proceed. So here I'm spinning up this server. Yeah, I have a kind of DHCP server. So when I spin up a system, I get an IP. I will, yeah, for IPA, you do need to get an IP actually. A static IP, I mean. Okay. Okay, let's log into this. So yeah, this is just completely fresh. So it's stream, CentOS stream. I created this template just a few days ago, and it has already a lot of updates actually. So it's yeah, it's very dynamic. So yeah, that's why stream. Yeah, you cannot really use it in production anymore. So yeah, I guess the alternative is Rocky Linux. It seems to be the kind of well supported, but there's another one as well. Yeah, I forgot the name. But stream, yeah, it's interesting because then you get really the latest version of a component. So that's why, yeah, FreeIPA. So like I was showing at the beginning. So we are going to get 4.9.8, and this is really the latest version. And normally you are running really late. I think on RHEL 8 they're at 4.8 even or something. It's really running behind the real version. But yeah, 4.9.8 is the latest version. So it's in a stream. So it's quite interesting for demo. Okay, let's yeah, first we need to have to speed up a bit because running late. Yeah, let's use yeah, you need a static IP for IPA. For the client, does not matter. So I will configure static IP, gateway, DNS. I will point my FreeIPA to this AD actually. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, this is my new IP. Here we go. Okay. So I need the IP host name. Let's let's install. So we just need IPA server. And we are going to install the DNS, integrated DNS as well. So let's install these two components. Somehow in Streamline, it's super fast, the Yum install. There's, I don't know what they did since, but I find that there's really a performance improvement. Okay, so to install FreeIPA, yeah, you just need the packages. You need to install your firewall. There are many ports. Well, many, not so many, but you have LDAP server, so you have LDAP, LDAP-S. You have Kerberos with, you have also the GUI. So we'll open the firewall. Reloads. And you have a port. How many? Yeah, free. Yeah, there's a service which is quite handy because you can just open your firewall like this. Otherwise, you have to add all these ports. So you have 80 for free, 88 UDP, TCP. This is also Kerberos. This is NTP. We don't really need it, but LDAP. LDAP-S, what do we have? We have, oh, that duplicated actually. LDAP-S, that's funny, looks same. And we are opening a DNS because it will be a DNS server. NTP, not, yeah, we are not going to implement NTP because NTP is already out of the box configure, but it's something usually I don't see to use FreeIPA as NTP server, but in Active Directory, it's being done. So every time you join a server, it's also, you also get NTP. You get everything in Active Directory. Okay, so we can install. So let's. So IPA server install. I will set up DNS. This is the directory, the LDAP password in case you need it. This is the standard admin password to log into the console. This is to have a home directory. I don't know why it's not default, but always it's / it's annoying. We're not going to configure NTP. This is to create a reverse zone. It might not work in this case because I'm pointing my DNS to AD to gain a bit of time. Otherwise, I have to configure all the forwarders. Yeah, I'm going with forwarder. So I'm going to forward everything to AD at the DNS level. First, you have a few different policy. First, it means that you are kind of doing a recursive DNS. You have another option, which is only. So if you do NS lookup something and it's not in your domain, then it gets back to the client with not found. In this case, we first is going to do the recursion. And we don't put DNS validation, DNSSEC, because there's a kind of issue with integration with AD later on. Okay, so I'm starting this. So yeah, to install it's easy and it's got better and better. Hostname, FreeIPA. The domain, it will be ipa.blue.corp. This is the realm domain, so like Kerberos has the concept of a realm, which is usually this DNS domain name. Let's see. Yeah, I think there's an issue with, there will be an issue with reverse record, but it doesn't matter. NetBIOS, yeah, it's still the old name. So are we happy with this? Let's say yes, this is my IP. Yeah, certificate authority. So in a real production environment, you don't do this. So for certificate, what you do in a production environment, so this domain, IPA domain, is able to be a certificate authority. So it means every time you need certificates for your domain, it can be for your users, it can be for a web server that you want to configure and to have a proper certificate. So yeah, IPA can do this for you, but you need to have normally in companies they have their own certificate authority, and with proper hardware behind, like HSM box, encryption box. So what you would ask, it's the guy from the company to provide you with signing CA, and then you would configure this in your IPA. So you are not responsible for the complete company certificate, but only for your IPA domain. And it's very handy because you have like CertMon gear. It can just renew certificates automatically without having to do anything. And we know that certificates is a pain because every year you have to renew them and people don't know how to renew them. And so there are, yeah, we don't have time to go into this, but there are a lot of really nice, it's a nice, system, this CA integration. Okay, so this is going to take a bit of time, so we can use this time to create some clients. Where did I do? Where is my? Okay. Yeah, so we are going to create this IPA blue.corp here, and let's create 2 clients. So we are going to create Linux 1, Linux 2. Later on, what we want to do with the users, it's to create so let's say the application support team in charge of application A, they are going to have, yeah, like a few hosts for themselves to work with. So yeah, in this case, we have only one, but let's say application A, this team will be in charge of Linux 1, and application B will be in charge of Linux 2. Yeah, in a real scenario. Well, if we have time, we can add more hosts, but let's start with these 2 hosts. So then we will create kind of access control. Oh yeah, like this actually. So application A support team will have access to application A hosts. So we will create the host-based access control. And we will do the same for B. And we will need also a rule to allow the Linux team to manage all the hosts, because they must be able to access all the hosts. And later on, we can also do the same with sudo. So the sudo, the application A team needs to be able to use sudo to do some stuff with our application, not root. We don't want to give them root. Could be, but in this case not. They are just application support team. So the same for B, and the Linux admin team needs to have sudo root on both. So so we can create these. Where is it? These 2 server. Where is my picture? Yeah, so Linux 1 IPA blue.corp. So let's spin up 2 servers, clone VMID 6. Linux one dot, it will be IPA dot blue dot corp. Well, actually, this is just a name, does not matter too much. I'm creating a link clone. If I create a full clone, I make a complete copy of the templates, but yeah, it just takes a lot of space and it's slow. So 506, okay. I will create another one. 507. Linux 2. Actually, I'm also going to create Linux 3 because not sure if we will have time, but I want also to show you how to join Linux system to Active Directory directly without IPA. So I will create also this one. This one will be 508. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's not so good. Of course, when I tested it, I didn't have this. Start. I'm not sure if I have to. I should rebuild because it's we're not going to try to solve this. I must have forgotten something, but it looks actually okay. No, not really. Yeah, that's a real demo. So I think I'm just going to delete this one. Okay, let's delete and try again. Okay, I will give it another try. Actually, in the meantime, we can try it again, and I can show the direct integration. So remove FreeIPA, so 5. FreeIPA. Seems okay. Not running full yet. Okay, let's try to install it again, and then we can have a look at the direct integration while it's going to install. Okay, so let's start again. So I need to the new IP address. Yeah, it's DHCP mode, so there's something I don't understand here. Did I change the host name? No, I didn't. Why do I get? There's a mystery here. I somehow might be logged into another one or 30. Yeah, this looks good. Just a reboot to be sure, because this, yeah, I could install it really easily. Maybe I will, maybe it's a bug and we'll do a first yum update, but yeah, this is in 3 days. There are really a lot of new packages already. New Samba. So let's have a look at the, so we're going to try to install this. In the meantime, we can have a look at the how to join directly with to Active Directory. So actually it's quite simple. So let's take this Linux free. So I don't really care about yeah, just DHCP. I get an IP address. What I need to do is the first thing to do is to point to Active Directory. So I can do it like this. IPv4 80.10, that's my here we go. Maybe hostname. linux3.blue.corp. Okay. So I have these hosts. It just sent to S9 and it just the server version, nothing out of box. But what I noticed is that you have this utility already, the Realm utility, and using this utility, then you can join Active Directory domain. So here I'm so you can do discover, join. So I'm going to join an Active Directory domain this way. So I will place my computer in a certain organizational unit. So I will put it in OU equal, for example, application A, and OU equal demo. So I can create this, for example. This is the UM updates. Sorry, I'm trying again. And year one was the DNS. Okay, so if I go back to my, so I have this demo organizational units. Under this, I can create a new OU for this application A, for example. I will call it application A here. Okay, so I'm going to join the domain blue.corp. Computer OU is here we go. Blue.corp. It's going wrong. I made the mistake. But I gave the IP address of AD server to this host instead of a DNS. Okay, it's late. Okay. I will just reboot it so that it gets another IP because it's in auto mode. I don't know what's happening. I think my lab is a bit getting some network problems. Oh yeah, it's coming from, I think I screwed up my lab.
But maybe after the reboot, it'll just pick it up.
Oh boy, I have 2 IP addresses now. Yeah, actually, it's strange in the new Linux, the new RHEL 9 version. You can have both DHCP and static IP, and with DNS as well. They put so you in the past you couldn't put something in a resolve.conf, right? So it would be overwritten when you use network manager, but now it's possible. So you could you can put something in a network manager conf.d, I think. So you can put a file here and you can have the resolve.conf being you have a master. You know what I can do? Sorry, I screwed up my lab by going too fast. IPv4. I could just delete the interface and recreate it. Okay, we have nothing. What is it? Add. Didn't do this for long. Ethernet. What else do we need? IPv4. We need an IP address. Just get something. We need a gateway. DNS. So this is my IP of Active Directory, which I screwed up. So if I do this, okay. It's called Ethernet. Why not? Forgot to give a name. Why do I have two IPs? Okay, well, I will just kill this one. And I will reboot the Active Directory. Yeah, it's not fun if everything goes well, right? Okay, so I had the conflict here. So this one, the Active Directory should have this IP, but by accident, I gave wrong IP. So I guess my DNS here was not working anymore. So let's give a reboot. When you have IP conflict in a network, it's never really I think my network is and I does a reply. It's a bit too much, all these Windows stuff for this machine. Let's see. It's coming up slowly. Okay, it seems to be back. Okay, so I was doing yum install. Let's see if this works again. I think I was doing too many things at the same time. Okay, firewall. So IPA server install. I will just point to I have a default DNS from a router. It's proper DNS. Okay. So we are configuring this with his own domain. So this server will be authoritative for this. And then why do I have no reverse zone? Reverse zone already exists. Just a sec. Does it exist? Yeah, I know it's registered somewhere. Doesn't matter. Well, let's try like this. Yeah, we will not have time. Let's see if we have a. I'm assuming it's working. Then we will have to. I do have some scripts to configure quickly some host-based access control, some sudo. Maybe we can configure the trust. So yeah, let's go on actually to discuss this. Yeah, when you have AD or FreeIPA, what you need to do is to, what's very important is to configure host-based access control. So if you, let's say you have 1,000 hosts, sometimes 10,000, it's not that everybody can SSH to any host. So all these teams, they have an account in Active Directory, but you must configure properly host-based access control. So you can do it with FreeIPA, but when you have the AD integration, what you have to do is to allow actually the users, this let's say Linux admin here, you need to give him access to the hosts that are here joined by IPA. So how do you do this actually? So what you do in the IPA, it's you create some groups, some external groups it's called. So in Linux you have POSIX groups, but in AD you are using different systems based on SID. It's not UID, it's SID. So you have to find a way to access these, to refer to these users here. So what is being done in IPA is to create some external groups, they call it. And so you are going to create external group and you are going to put some users in all these AD users in these external groups. And then from IPA, you create a POSIX group and you refer to the external group. So this way, that's how you can then configure your complete IPA to give proper access. So you are creating some host-based access control, and you are telling this group of users is allowed to access this group of hosts. And I allow these for sudo the same. For sudo, then you can tell this group of users can do sudo to only on these servers. So by the use of external groups, this is how you manage to access these Active Directory users actually. So there are two ways actually to do this. What you can do is to refer directly to groups in AD or directly to users. So I noticed if you give access to groups, then you are creating a dependency on the Windows team, because the Windows team will have to add users to groups, and it's not going to be very handy. So a way to do it is from IPA, you are referring directly to the users in AD. And this way you have a proper integration. Let's see what's happening there. We'll give it another try. Usually it takes quite long. But I installed it 2 times and then it was working nicely. So I don't know what happened. Well, it's always like this live demo, always failing. That's it's a pity because everything. I was surprised actually by the new RHEL 9 this stream version. I really didn't encounter any issue. IPA client install. So you see when you do install, it's installing a server version. So all the components are installed: DNS, Kerberos, certificate system, but it's also installing a client. Realm, it looks all good so far. KDC proxy. KDC, I mean, yeah, there's also regarding the flow, successfully installed. So that looks a bit better this time. So let's have a look. So we have a FreeIPA server. So I configured the user admin. So when I'm using a kinit, it's to get Kerberos ticket from the KDC server. So I do have a ticket here. We can try the console. I don't know what happened before why it failed, but anyway. Maybe Smart, yeah, you didn't miss a lot because we had a failure and only now we have finally installed FreeIPA. Yeah, we will share the recording as well. Yeah. This is CentOS identity management. So I put the CentOS logo in this version of IPA. It's properly done, I find. About IPA version 4.9.8, so which is the latest version. Okay, so we have an IPA server. So quick overview. Identity, you have few tabs here. Users. So you have active users, stage users, preserved users. This is nice to have a kind of life cycle management. So let's say a user will join the company next week. You can already prepare your entry for this guy, new guy, yeah, new guy, passwords. Yeah, maybe I'm not going to go through all these stuff, but a stage user is a user with UID -1. It's not ready yet to join the company. It does not exist yet, but you can promote it to be when he arrives, you can activate it and it's going to active user. And also active users can be, when you delete them, they can go to the preserved user category, and then you can, if a guy is gone and is back 6 months later, you can restore his account. It's something you can do. So yeah, it's nice integration. All the hosts. So these are all the hosts that we can, when you join a host, in a similar way you saw it in Active Directory under the computers folder. Then you can see them here. Services, these are for the different services. You have DNS, HTTP. We are doing this, for example, if you want to have, let's say I have NFS server, and you want to have a Kerberos authentication for your NFS server. So you would create a service here, NFS, and you will have this service being used. Yeah, this is actually very interesting because you can do your Kerberos integration with many products. Like, for example, for Ansible Tower, you can integrate it with Red Hat IDM in Kerberos, and you use the services. Groups, user groups. So you create groups of users. Host groups, you create groups of hosts. We will do this later on. ID views, that's interesting things. Yeah, because you have IDs, UIDs in IDM. So if I do ID admin, this is the ID here. But when you join Active Directory domains, you get a range of IDs, and these IDs are automatically generated by IPA. So here you can add ID views. We will see later on if we join this. Auto member, this is an interesting feature with users and hosts. And Yellow was asking at the very beginning. Yeah, yeah. So you can create rules to automatically join users to groups. That's subordinate ID. I don't know this one. I've never seen it before. It's in a new version, and I think it's to allow Active Directory users to access the IPA console, which was not possible in the previous version. And I think this is the new feature that's been introduced. Policy, so this is the second tab. You have host-based access control rules. By default, you have allow all. So it means all users are allowed to access any host. This is not desirable in an enterprise environment. We will remove this rule and create a new one. You have all your sudo rules here. SE Linux user map, never used it. Not sure who's using this, but you can use this. Password policy, you have all kind of settings like for your passwords, the max lifetime of a password before it needs to be changed. The character classes, you can go crazy and ask people to enter uppercase, lowercase, number, and control character, min length. So all these kind of things are managed here. You can create actually your own password policy as well. Did I change something? I hope not. Character as well, okay. Yeah, you can also create your new one, and for a certain group of users, you can have some users, for example, who are accessing very sensitive hosts. You can create a new password policy. Kerberos ticket policy by default, I think it's 24 hours. So you can, so these tickets, for example, I get when I'm a user, you can, it has a life. It will expire in 24 hours, but you can change this as well. Authentication. So this part is all for the certificates. Let's not cover this because it's Science Radio server. You can have a this is for two-factor authentication. You can probably link to RSA server or thing like this. Here you can configure your auto mount, auto direct, auto master. So if you want to have, when user log on, to have an auto mount configure, you can do this here. And you have a DNS, so DNS zones. So I have my zone here, IPA blue.corp. So I am fully authoritative for my zone, so I can add my records here. Usually you don't add the records manually, but when you join a server to the domain, then you can you see a new records here. And IPA server, if you can create some replica, so it's not that you have one IPA server, but you can have like a multitude of IPA server in different regions. And when you have a complicated setup, you have this nice topology graph where you see the replication between your domain. It's quite nicely made. IPA location, it's about the different sites you can configure. So I can configure a site called Amsterdam, for example, where all my clients will join the Amsterdam kind of IPA server. And you can configure different locations. And the configuration of these, or base configuration. So this is the very quickly the GUI. What we can do, it's already 9 o'clock. I don't know if I can maybe join clients. We can go on a bit if you want, or I can go on another day and maybe have another session too. I knew it would be difficult even without issue. So we had this issue now, but I knew it would be short in time. But what I propose is to at least join a server to IPA, create bunch of users, create the host-based access control rule to put some content there. And yeah, if you're okay, I can go on. I don't really need to go now, so okay. I think I will organize another session maybe next week to go on with this. For now, to finish this, maybe what we can do is to yeah, and the next time I will have already IPA installed, so I will focus on really on the FreeIPA side and the trust. So today I think we saw the AD demo, so we could see the trust between the. So we did these parts: DC1, DC2, the trust. So we have now IPA server configured. What's missing in the demo now is to configure this one-way trust. What I can do for now is to join these two Linux hosts, and in another session we can do the trust actually, if that's okay with you. Let's join two servers to this. I think I created them already. Okay. Okay, I have Linux 1, Linux 2. We can try to join these Linux computers there. Okay, there we didn't go that far, so we can change the hostname. I will do it actually from another console. It's a bit annoying, I cannot copy paste. IP address 180. Yeah, joining a server is quite straightforward actually. Yeah, it was a bit optimistic to fit all this content in 2 hours. I knew this, but okay, let's change the host name. Here we go. I like to restart my session and change the host name. Here we go. So we need to point to our IPA server. Let's query IPA dot blue dot corp. Yeah, so I can just change the DNS server. Yeah, it's strange when you do this in the past, it would erase everything you have here, but here it keeps the original configuration. Anyway, so now I am pointing. So my DNS server is properly configured. So if I'm looking, for example, for let's say the LDAP server, I'm going to query _LDAP. Let me put this a bit bigger. So that was I was talking about. These server records are quite important. So I can query the LDAP. I can query, for example, Kerberos. So I'm asking where is Kerberos, and it's telling me, hey, Kerberos, you can access it on port 88, and this is the server you have to access. Let's install the client. You install IPA client. This is how you install the client. And then we can run the installer. I need to install a package. I noticed there was a kind of bug and I was missing this IFP feature. I don't know why it's a bug. Okay, so to join the simplest way, it's not very secure because I have to give the passwords. IPA client installed. That's it, no NTP. So here it says discovery successful. What the client is doing, it's doing a kind of NS lookup dig to, is querying the server records, and he finds all this information. So he was looking for the realm. So he probably queried the Kerberos, which the same way I did it. And then he found all the information and he's ready to join the domain. Here we go. So the domain has been joined. So I should be able to get a ticket, Kerberos tickets. So I've been successfully joined the domain. So we can go to the console, their hosts, and I see my first client who's joined. So I can add a few users. So there's a really nice command line interface, IPA. So this is how you access the another way to configure. The help is also very good. So you do, for example, help topics. So you can get information on all these topics. Auto member, for example, if I want to know about auto member, I do help auto member, and it's going to give you examples as well and a brief summary. It's very good. So, for example, help users, then it's going to tell me how to all the different commands about users. For example, I can add user team, for example, here, passwords. Here we go. I added my first user to IPA. So I can log in as T user 1, enter a new passwords, entering a new password, and that's it. So I'm logged in to so here I'm authenticated actually. When you do KNIT, you request a ticket from the KDC server and you are authenticating. So when you have a ticket, then you can access some all the different resources you want. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a bunch of users like we did before. So I'm going to use the command line And with a small loop, I'm going to create 9 users here. Sorry for this. Of course, when I'm authenticated as user T-user1, this user doesn't have any privileges to create anything in IPA. I need to have privileges. So I can be admin, but I can be also another users with this specific role to create users. But here I'm just going to use admin. So I'm going to create, here I'm creating 9 users in the same way that I created in the in Active Directory. I'm going to add a group as well, Linux admin, for example. I'm going to add my application support group, application support for application A and for application B. And I'm going to add the users that I created, IPA user 1, 2, and 3 to the Linux ADM group. And I'm going to add user 4, 5, 6 to application support A. And I'm going finally to add user 7 at 9 to application support B. Here we go. So if I do IPA user find, now I see all my different users. Now I'm doing, for example, IPA user 1. So I'm querying the LDAP server. You can do, for example, get and passwords IPA user 1. I can also query, for example, the Linux ADM group, and I can get and group. This is actually something you want to remove because this is an extremely expensive LDAP query. Here I'm querying the group, and it will do a kind of recursive call to get all the users from the group. In production, you need to delete this feature, and you can delete this. So this is my server that has joined IPA. So I can try actually knet IPA user 1. So I think I change. What was my initial password? New passwords. Yeah, there's no way to create users with a fixed password in IPA. You can do this in Active Directory, but when you create a user, the user has to change his passwords the very first time you log in. Or you can do some tricks in the LDAP to change specific field, but out of the box you can't. So I'm entering new passwords. Here we go. So I'm authenticated, for example, as IPA. So let's SSH, because that's the ID. SSH, I'm going to log in to my linux.ipa. Here we go. I'm logged in as user IPA to this Linux 1 box. Now we can configure let's join the second server. I think since we are recording, I will finish this demo until the trust, and then so we can complete this chapter. So joining these two servers to IPA, having all the users created, and yeah, this is part 4, but at least yeah, this is no, this was the indirect integration. But in the FreeIPA demo, yeah, I would like to finish at least to join these two clients. So now we installed IPA, we join clients, and we did some tests. So I will add a second server. Okay. So we have a new server. So this one will be Linux 2. Okay. Time is synchronized. Time synchronization is very important. You should have, because of Kerberos, you should have time really in working with NTP. It's really required. Okay, I'm installing my IPA client and also this small tool, but this library I'm missing somehow. I don't know why. You have so everything is managed by SSSD. So we could spend a lot of time just talking about SSSD, but it's the daemon that's running, and this daemon is connecting to your IPA server. It's also able to access, to send some calls to your backends. So we have a nice tool nowadays. Out of the box, you get this SSCTL, and you can list the domains. Okay, here I only have the IPA domain, but when I join the servers to Active Directory, then I can see all my Active Directory domain. This tool is really the tool you need to configure everything. You can also check your users, IPA user 1, for example. So I can query the IPA users, but also the AD users. It's really the tool of that you need. You can even check password. You can check your cache. The cache plays a really a big role in SSSD. You can expire your cache. So you have offline authentication. So it means that every time you log on, your entries cache. So I've logged in with IPA user 1. So it says cache entry creation, expiration date. With 2, you see, I didn't log in with IPA user 2. So it's not in the cache. If I do knet IPA user 2, then every time I have to enter new passwords. And IPA user 2. I have a ticket. So it should be in the cache. Oh, that's weird. It should be in the cache. I don't know why, but everything is cache under. It's actually a kind of small database. Everything goes into these directories. Yeah, caching can be very annoying with SSSD. So sometimes you have to clear your cache if authentication or sudo rules are not there. But yeah, this tool is really, when you work with IPA, this is really the tool that you need to use. Okay, let's see where is. Okay, so we have installed the clients. We can just join it. I'm not sure if I configured my DNS yet. I can do it again. So I'm pointing to my IPA server. Let's see. Well, I think I can go ahead and join my Linux 2 to IPA. Discovery was successful. Here we go. I think it's joined. So, okay, lists. Let's try to authenticate with IPA user 3. Why not this time? Okay, lists. Okay, so I have a Kerberos ticket. You can do kdestroy -a if you want to get rid of all your Kerberos tickets. Let's try to SSH. SSH IPA user 3. I'm going to SSH to this host. Passwords. I already changed the password, I think. Here we go. We are logged in. The home directory has been created because we installed it with --mkmdir option. I am part of Linux admin. We can have a look. So I run this command line to create all these users. So now we can see them here. Yeah, this was the first user I created. Let's have a good look at the groups. So we have app supports A containing IPA user 456. The Linux admin group contains IPA user 123. App support B contains IPA user 789. So this is the small set of groups and users that we created so far. And now we have two hosts, Linux 1, Linux 2. And we can log in with any users to any hosts because the host-based access control. Out of the box, you have this rule, allow all. So it means anyone is able to access any host via any service. Service is like SHD, sudo, these kind of things. Yeah, there's a nice tool if you want to check who allowed to log in where. So for example, let's check if IPA user 1 can access Linux 1. Next, via SSH. All the rules. Run the tests. Match access granted. So this small tool allow you to test if a user, so for example, if a user cannot log in, is calling and he said, well, I am user IPA user 1 and I cannot log in. So you would use this tool to run a test. Say, okay, this is not a host-based access control issue. It could be something else, but yeah, you get access granted. Okay, so now what we can, in order to finish this, what we can do is to get rid of this allow all rule. So what we are going to do is to configure host-based access control. How to do this? Then we need to simply disable this rule. So if I disable this rule, nobody is going to be able to log in. Before doing this, what I'm going to do is to create new rules. So I'm going to add host-based access control rule. And I'm going to add hosts to groups. Before doing this, I'm going to add a host group. So groups, host groups. So let's, if we go back to our scenario here, we have, where is it? Here. So we have, I forgot to mention it, but let's say we have a host group for application A support. So this group of people, they are going to support, they have a group of hosts. We call the group application A hosts. So we are going to create here, let's call it host group application A. Application A servers. So this is all the application A servers. I'm going to add all the servers. So, well, here we have only one. Let's put only one. That's okay for now. But in practice, you have, yeah, maybe a web server, application server, or database servers. All the servers from this host group will be in there. Let's, yeah, this is one. I can also do it from the command line, but you can do it from, let's do it from there, H group app B. And here, this will be like application B servers. And I'm going to add here we go. So we have two host group. we have the application support A and support B. So now we need to make a link between the application support A group and the host group so that they can log in. So let's add this. So we are going to create this host base rule, and we are going to call it, for example, allow application A. Add and edit. So what do we want to do? So what we want is to allow user group A. We want them to access host group A. To keep things simple, we can have them access any service. So this is the first rule. So if I am a user of application A group, I will be allowed to access my server. So we can create the same rule, maybe with a command line. Why not? I can connect as admin. Okay, init admin. So here you see I am authenticated to IPA as administrator, but my ID is still IPA user free, but this does not matter. What's important, you really have to make the distinction between authentication. So I'm authenticated as administrator, and my ID is IPA user free, but so if I do, for example, IPA, yeah, I can run all the IPA command there because I'm authenticated as admin against IPA. Let's create the same with command line. So I will do IPA. I will create the host base access control rule this way. I will call it allow app B, and with all the services. This is how you actually do it from the command line. I'm going to add the hosts in the same way we did it with the console. So everything we did with the console here, you can do it with a command line. And of course, if you are in a production environment, you don't want to use the console, you want to use the command line. So I'm adding the host and I'm adding the group. And now I can have a look at my rule. The command line is really great because you have auto completion, tab completion. So ITGilde rule show, and then the name of my rule. So here, the user group support B is allowed to access the hosts group B. And host group B, what do we have there? IPA host group show application servers B, and it's Linux 2. And we can also check the group show. And all these servers are in the group B. So this is how you create. This is how you create host group, host base access control rule from the command line. Let's go on. I think we should be, oh no, we are missing a rule actually. Let's refresh this. Okay, so I created from a command line, I refresh, I can see it here. Let's create a group now for the Linux admin. We are missing this one. So we have a Linux admin group. I need to create host-based access control rule for the admins. I will do it from the command line. And maybe I need to use the correct rule. Let's call it allow admins. And I need to actually, I had I prepared the scripts for this. So you can, actually create all your content using the command line. So I can do this. Yeah, create. So here we started to do everything with a GUI manually. I created the admin, Linux admin, application A support team, host group we have created. I see that my script is not. So this rule, it's it's the most important here. What I'm going to tell is that the admins, so the people in the group Linux admin, they are allowed to access all the hosts and all the services. So this rule is very important because it allows a Linux admin to access all the hosts. So this one we created already, these two. I'm allowing all the application users to access only their own hosts. Here we go. So here, what I created actually, it's the sudo parts. Maybe we can run it afterwards. Let me first create the allow admin. I think I created this already. I need now to add the Linux ADM groups to it. So I am at a point now where I can most probably delete the allow all rule. So if I delete this rule, if I don't have a proper host-based access in place, I will not be able to log into the hosts. So now I have allow admins. I make sure that I have Linux admin groups. So Linux admin are these three user IPA 123. So these users, after that I create the rules, they will be able to access any hosts, any services. So I'm now able to remove the allow all. So I'm not going to remove it completely. I'm going to disable it. Okay. Okay, so now we can test. So let's start maybe from, this Linux box. It's not connected anywhere. So I can do SSH let's say IPA user 1, and I'm going to access Linux 1. So IPA user 1 is a Linux admin, and he should be able to access any hosts. Maybe I need to configure DNS on this box. Let's point to my IPA server. Okay, basic result.conf. That should do a trick. Okay, so SSH, IPA, passwords. Here we go. So we managed to log in there because I'm Linux admin. So now I'm going to try to log in as user. So if we remember the scenario where it is. So we have Linux, the application users 4, 5, 6. Where they should be allowed to access Linux 1, but not Linux 2. User 4 should be allowed to access Linux 1. Okay. Now let's try to access Linux 2. I'm not allowed to access Linux 2. Let's have a look at Linux 2 log file, what happened there. So I'm having a look at the var log secure from Linux 2 to see what happens. And I can see actually that I have an access denied, permission denied. It's not that I entered the wrong password, but it's that I have an authorization issue there. So it's well, it means the rule that we have in place did work. What you can see is that my authentication was okay. So I was able to, I successfully entered my passwords, but there's this host-based access control rule who denied the access. So now, if I am IPA user 7, so we have 3 groups, 1 to 3, the admin, 4, 5, 6, group A, and 7, 8, 9, group B. Linux 2 is in group B, so I should be able to access it. And here we go. So this user is in app support B, is allowed to access this host. If we check the log here, we can see that my authentication was successful. And yeah, it just accepted the authorization went fine. So that's yeah, it means we successfully implemented this. Okay, and if I think I already tried with user 1. What we can have a look here is that it's about Kerberos, the single sign-on, right? So Kerberos, it's about single sign-on. You get a Kerberos ticket. So I got, because I'm successfully authenticated, I got this ticket. if you have a ticket, you should be able to use it to log in to other systems without entering your password again. So I'm going to try to log in now to Linux 2. And what do we see? I didn't have to enter a password. So this is actually Kerberos, how Kerberos works. So I got a ticket. So before I got a ticket for only my ticket granting tickets, I logged in to host Linux 2 and I get another ticket. So if I log into Linux 1, exactly the same. So I don't need to enter passwords. And what we see is that I have another ticket there. So this is a single sign-on actually. Single sign-on works like this. It's really dependent on the Kerberos, and it's really based on also the domain name. So if I try to log in, so see, I still have my my Kerberos tickets here. If I try to log in using the IP address, so Linux 1, then it's going to prompt me for a password, because at this point the Kerberos authentication will not kick in because it cannot recognize the domain name. So it will it will fall back to LDAP authentication, which of course works as well, but it did fall back to the over authentication method. So yeah, we can probably see this if I do SSH a bit of verbose. We will see that authentication method, GSS API. So this is the Kerberos authentication that kicked in. And if we do the same with -v, unexpected GSS failure. So it didn't use the GSS API, which is like a Kerberos authentication. So he's now proposing the next authentication method, which is keyboard interactive. But then I can log in there. So, oh yeah, I didn't configure sudo. This is annoying. So the last thing I'm going to do is to configure sudo. I could have. Yeah, I just want to show the Kerberos configuration file. So see, it's highly based on the domain name. So Kerberos is going to recognize this DNS in the host name you entered, and it will use this realm configuration, and Kerberos will kick in. Okay, are you still with me? It's a long. It's yeah, actually it's a free. It's becoming a 3 hours session, which was more what I was thinking that it would be. And yeah, we didn't cover the trusts, but we can do it another time. What I want to finish, it's the yeah, we can have a look at sudo to configure sudo rules. I think I had this script somewhere. Where did I put it? Let's. Yeah, so I can run this script to configure sudo. Yeah, thanks for joining, Zafar. I will finish the sudo. Let's see, creating sudo. I will run it from here. Why not? Okay, needs admin. So sudo, if we have a look at the console, we can, of course, we can also do it with a console. So you have to create some sudo rules. And yeah, you can add the sudo rules, sudo test add. So this is how you configure sudo. Yeah, I think everybody knows sudo. So it's the same ID. Who can who can run some commands, so any command or specific commands on any host, on specific hosts, which command, which are denied, and as a certain user, so you can switch to application account, for example, application A account, user account. So you can define everything there. What I created here in this script, it's quite extensive, but first you have to define some comments. For example, here I'm doing systemctl start cronny, stop cronny, status, then sudo edit. So this would be kind of cronny administrator type of sudo. So I'm first putting all these commands in. We can run it like this actually. I'm putting all these commands in IPA. Here we go. So if I go to sudo commands, all the commands are there. So when I need to create some groups of commands. Yeah, so this is really to create like a fine-grained sudo configuration, but it's something you might want to do in a prod environment. So here I'm going to create a command group for application A people, for example. So I'm creating this command group. So you have rules, commands, command groups. Commands, array, command groups. I have this one. So what you can do then is to add some commands to the command group. So for example, here I'm going to add the cronny commands plus another one for the to be able to read log messages. So I'm creating now a group of commands for application A, and I will do the same for application B. Here we go. Application B. And I'm adding these commands to application B. Here we go. Now let's create the, so we are here. So we created these are the command group. So you have this button refresh all the time in the GUI. Application B command. So this group of commands contain, I can do sudo edit to the NTP configuration. I can read the log messages when I configure, for example, my NTP server. Messages will be logged there, so that's quite handy. But we still don't have created any sudo rules. So let's create the sudo rules for application A. So I'm going to, it will be called sudo app A. So well, let's just run it. Okay, so we have now an extra rule, sudo application A. what do we have? We see that this is for the application support A people. These are IPA user 456, Linux admin 123, application A 456. So these guys will be able to do what? So first of all, they can do only stuff on their own host group, which contain Linux 1. So host group A. And they're going to be able to run these commands we defined. So it's about cronny, start cronny, stop cronny, reconfigure it. And they are going to be able to run this as whom? As anyone. Anyone is actually root. So what you want to be able to do is to do sudo systemctl start cronny, stop cronny, vi sudo cronny.conf. So when you put anyone here, any group, it's root. So you really have to put it there where it doesn't work, run as group category. So now if I log in as, yeah, I should be able to run cronny as this user. So we can do the same for, so create the same rules for application B. Oh, what happened? I saw something happened. Oh, I was running the wrong one. I have to run this block. So create the sudo rule application B. Here we go. Okay, application rule. Refresh sudo for application B. The rules are here, and now so we can test this. The last thing we can check is a sudo rule for admin. So this rule is like the super rule to become root everywhere. So this is like a very dangerous rule. You really have to make sure you you assign it to only the people who can have it. So it's basically, we can create it with a GUI if you want to for a change. So we are creating the rule name sudo linux admins, add and edit rule for Linux admins, become root on all hosts. So this is a very dangerous rule. We can make it even more dangerous. I have to say first. We can say, for example, they don't need to enter any passwords. Yeah, you would not do this, but I mean, if it's a development environment, test environment, it's fine. So people just type sudo -i and their root without entering any password for sudo. So don't put anyone, or everybody is allowed to have root access. But I will put here only the Linux admin. Here we go, the Linux admins can do this. So here, that's where you put any command. So if you have a look here, hosts, command category all. Host category, I'm going to put all as well. Any command, assume, and then we put anyone everywhere. So this is how you create this like super admin rule. Here we go. So using this rule, the people app user 1, 2, 3 who are in the Linux admin group, they will be allowed to to run sudo everywhere on any hosts. So how do we test this? Testing for sudo rules, it's always a bit tricky. Also because there's a lot of caching involved, but let's have a look where we are. So I am logged in now on Linux 1. Let's see, I can let's first have a look. Sudo -u IPA user 1 -l. Not allowed. So it seems that the sudo rule has not been propagated to the clients, because you have to realize that Linux 1 is running SSSD. The SSSD communicates with a FreeIPA server. The FreeIPA server is also running SSSD and gets its configuration. And here it's also not yet propagated. I'm going to restart. It takes some time usually to propagate all the rules from the LDAP server to there. Fortunately, I have some tools like SSSCTL. What I can do is to expire the cache. So the sudo cache, for example, I can expire all the sudo rules there. And I have to be a bit patient. And here we go. Now the rule is available here. I can see that IPA user 1. There's a nice trick. It's to do -LL, double L, and then you see which rule is actually involved. So here I can see this. So here I'm on the IPA server. I can check if a rule has been propagated as well on the other side. Here still not. So let's do restarts of SSD. Yeah, actually restarting usually is not necessary, but sometimes it is. So what's more efficient is to use the cache expire. So we can have a look. Cache expire. And then it was -r, or you can do sudo rules, easier to remember. Okay, I'm expiring, and let's see, here we go. They are now being propagated, so all the sudo rules are there. User 4, for example. So we see on the Linux host, on the client, we see that the rules have been propagated and they are available. So it means, let's test. So this user IPA4 should be able to run sudo to do stop, start, and doing less. So I'm going to connect, or maybe from this host, SSH IPA user 4 at, oops, won't copy paste. On the Linux one. Here we go. So now sudo -l passwords, sudo -l. So you see I'm allowed to run, I like the -ll. So if I do sudo less of log messages, then I'm allowed to look at the log messages. And I should be allowed to, well, status, I think every user can run status probably, but you definitely not allowed to run stop. See, you need to be able to, you must be authenticated as root. So if I do sudo, yeah, then I stopped chrony. So I do status, it's dead. And if I do sudo starts, then it's running again. So the sudo does work. So if I'm logging in as user IPA user 1, 2, or 3, I should be able to become root everywhere. So I'm not sure if the rule has been propagated. Yeah, it is. So you see there's this option don't authenticate. So it means if I do sudo -i, boom, I'm root without entering a password, which is not secure, but it's just to demonstrate this this option. So on Linux 1 and then on Linux 2, I should be able to do the same. Sorry, I changed it to the wrong place. Linux 2. Okay, so here it has not been propagated yet because we did the restart on Linux 1, not on Linux 2. I can just become root, which this normally you just disable it in production environments. You don't want people to sudo like to su to root like this. So if I do ssctl and then I will do cache expire and sudo rules. And if I do sudo -u, so if you do -u, you are checking the sudo rules for another user. So for example, IPA user 1-l, still not allow. Maybe I need to restart system ctl restart sssd -u, still not allowed. Because IPA user 1 should be allowed to log in anywhere and run sudo everywhere. So, oh, here we go. Sometimes you just need to be a bit patient with his with this. So let's try again. I log in as IPA user 1 on Linux 2. Sudo -i. Okay, I'm root. And I can also SSH. I have a Kerberos ticket, so I can just SSH there. And I'm root. Okay, it was a long session. Thanks a lot, Bismarck, Vipur, to join until the end. The video is recorded, so I wanted to finish the presentation. So
no, it was really nice. Thanks, Chris and Eric, and the fact that it works finally actually give me a couple of ideas. So I did miss first 15 or so minutes of the. So I will check the video later once Peter sends it, and let's see. Thanks, man. It's really nice.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and I think we cover everything. So the last thing we didn't cover, yeah, it's the trust with IPA. Yeah, so this is the indirect integration where we create a trust with AD, and then we are able to log in as any user, Active Directory user on IPA. So that's the missing part, and yeah, maybe we just finish it another session next week or something in a new session. And
sounds like a plan.
Yeah, thanks for joining this session and staying until the end. I hope it was useful and you you learn something about AD and IPA, and well, there will be a new session. So we'll see each other next week or something if you can make it.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
and have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. How to stop the recording? If I do end, it should stop the recording, I guess. Stop recording. Yes.